You're listening to the Chasing Tails Outdoor Podcast, where when you can't be in the outdoors, we bring it to you. Welcome back to the Chasing Tails Outdoor Podcast. My name is Walt. His name is Chase, and we have one simple goal: bring you the outdoors when you yourself can't be out there. So that's what we're doing today. Today's going to be the final episode of the Lessons of the Fall series, where we go back and find people who have been on the podcast before, who have talked deer tactics, who get it done on a fairly routine basis, and we're asking them for the minutia, the nuanced lessons that they learned from the past year. And I think you're going to enjoy this episode. But before we get to that, as we sit here today, we are 27 days away from turkey season. Chase, are you feeling the bug? Like, what's going on in your world, man? Where's your mind at?
Yeah, I just started thinking about it a little bit the other day. I'm fixing to go put out some cameras to maybe catch some turkeys in some historical areas, and probably fixing to go out and start listening in the morning times just to maybe get some birds pinned down, or at least going out and maybe trying to find some strut areas. So my mind has kind of officially, it's gone from deer season for the most part, and I'll still be doing some scouting for deer while I'm turkey hunting. As I've said before, deer's my passion. I like to turkey hunt, but if I had to choose one, I would choose deer every day, all day. But I still really like turkey hunting, and I think it's more about just the camaraderie, being able to hunt with people, having a good time, and getting to hear a bird gobble. So if I can get those things during turkey season, I'm happy as can be.
Yeah, that's right, man. So we're on obviously different spectrums. I would pick turkey over deer almost any day of the week. But the good news is that means we bring y'all fair and balanced content. Right now, as we approach turkey season, we're still talking about deer. This episode is a really good one. I think there's some interesting lessons that are shared here that are quite unique. We haven't heard them before, and I think it's going to be a fun one. We're speaking with Greg Litzinger, who is an awesome guy. In fact, he was the first public land podcast that we ever did way back in July of 2017, which is just remarkable that we've been on the air for that long. Thank you guys for indulging us that entire period. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun episode. We're getting close to turkey season. You and I have a turkey hunt planned. This will be the first. I think this is true. This will be the first hunt that you and I will be filming for each other. That's got to be true, right?
Yeah, the first film for sure.
Yeah. How about it? And that's going to be a Patreon-supported event. All the funds that are used for creating that content came straight from Patreon. You know, we talk all the time about how you guys help us do more. We're always going to be doing this podcast. Chase and I really enjoy the conversations. I'm sure our wives enjoy the break from us as well. But, you know, we've been spending a lot of money on camera gear, getting set up so that we can go out and document some of these adventures. And so this will be the first time that the adventure as a whole will be brought to you by Patreon. So thank you for all the people who choose to sign up every year. It blows me away. We still have people signing up right now, and for about 15 cents a day, if you want to sign up and support the podcast and help us travel with travel costs and go to do these different hunts and bring it to you, check it out. We do all kinds of giveaways. Like right now, we're giving away the Alps Outdoor turkey vest with some custom calls from Longbeard Life, which should be ready as I'm recording this in about a couple days. I talked to Josh the other day. I'm really excited about it, and that's just one of the ways that we say thanks to you guys for supporting the show. It just helps us do more, you know. I'll be honest with you guys. That's what it does. So huge shout out. In fact, we've got some shout outs to give. How about that? Joseph Bratt, Patrick Coy, Ricky Bullard, and Walter Schubert. Thank you all for tuning in. How about this, Chase? All four of those are from Florida.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
How about it, man? Jacksonville, Newport Richey, Orange Park, and Panama City. Dude, that's cool.
Yeah, that's a good little range there.
How about it, man? We got the whole. We're locking down this state.
Well, that's where we're from, so.
Yeah, it's true. I guess it'd be an indictment if we couldn't figure it out, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Well, and before I blabber on indefinitely, which you guys know I am prone to do, we're gonna go ahead and send you to the show. Thanks for everything that you guys do. Thanks for tuning in, and we got some spring turkey content coming your way soon. Ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing to you what may be the final series of the Lesson of the Fall mini series, where we look back on the things that previous guests have learned in the previous season. And I reached way back, way back in the archive of the podcast, trying to find just that real unique dude that hunts an area that most people don't talk about. And it dawns on me that going all the way back to the beginning of the podcast, July 2nd of 2017, we had a guest on named Greg Litzinger, and the dude is a legend now. He's climbed through the ranks. He is a hard working dude from the northeast portion of the United States. Dude, thank you for taking time to sit with us here on a Sunday morning. This has to be the earliest podcast we've ever recorded.
Yeah, that's good. I've yeah, it is kind of early for me as well. You gotta get in where you fit in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I reached out and said, "Hey, man, can I have some of your time?" And you said Sunday morning, and at 9 o'clock. And all right, let's rock, man. We'll we'll send it.
Yeah, this is dad life full effect right here.
Yeah, man. So Greg hails from New Jersey. He hunts probably some of the most like fascinating public land because it seems like you can bait everywhere. The pressure's really high. It's not an area that I think of for big bucks, and yet you hustle really hard to get on them, dude. And I really enjoy following along because you're really transparent the entire time.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. Some people say lucky, but just fortunate. I'm a stubborn individual, and I've taken me 20 years to taste success on a big deer. So I like, the old, I paid my dues of shooting dinks and missing and doing everything wrong. And it took me 19 years to shoot, a 120-inch deer. So it didn't come easy for me by any means.
No, for sure.
It might look it looks like that way to some people now, but it's a lot of lonely fits.
Yeah. I don't think anybody who pays attention would ever think that you don't hustle hard and it hasn't been a long journey. I mean, you went on a drought there for like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but wasn't it like 3 years that you went on a drought?
Yeah, it was 3 years. Yeah, I had 2 seasons where it was one season I didn't see nothing worth shooting. It was awful. Another one I couldn't get him on film, 140-inch 10. I could have shot him, but when I was filming a lot, everything had to be on film or it didn't count mentality. And I regret that decision because it took me 10 years to get a deer that big, 9 years, 9 seasons in that salt marsh to get on a deer that big and to let him walk. I left a bad taste in my mouth as far as self-filming, so I kind of tapered off of filming for a little bit because I'm like, I can't, I don't get paid to film. So it's like, yeah. And I always told myself, because I was lucky self-filming. I got $4 or $5 on film. It was so easy. There was no mistakes. They come in, get on film, and it was like, wow, this is easy. And then it was like the old black cloud. It was just like the camera was just like sticking it to me every once in a while. I'm like, I got to put this thing away because it was making hunting not fun. So I put the camera away and got back to basics, and and I think this year I'm going to film a little bit more. But yeah, droughts happens. I mean, I've 3 years, and I've gone. I think before that was 5 years without shooting a buck, and that was when I wasn't shooting bigger deer. I was just shooting any bucks. So there's been a lot of years where you're just doing everything wrong, and you just it's awful. But that's just nature of the beast, I guess.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, speaking of things gone wrong, this podcast is about last year, and maybe not in things that went wrong, but kind of looking back retrospectively and saying, what could I have done differently? So is there anything right out the gate that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I would. My summer scouting last year really left a bad taste in my mouth at the beginning of the season. I didn't get anything on camera, and I put all my eggs in the camera intel instead of doing what I do best is more kind of the old freelance stand on my back mentality and just find hot sign and hunt it. I relied too much on my cameras throughout the summer, and it was a little tough to get going early season because it's like there's nothing in the cameras, nothing worth big enough, worth shooting, and yeah, and I need to get away from that. Like I'll put cameras out if nothing's there. I know the bucks are there, I just need to go, do what I do best is use my, what I'm seeing, personally. Cameras are nice, don't get me wrong. They do serve a purpose. But some of the areas I hunted last year, those are great acorn drops. So deer were everywhere. So I kind of got stuck. I got to hunt this bed or this, travel corridor because this is what they're going to be doing. No, that was just awful. And then once I kind of like pulled my head out of my ass, basically, I ended up killing my first buck because coming in, hot sun, big fresh scrape. It's middle of October. I'm like, this scrape's early. I'm going back to this bed. And I remember walking past all this hot sign, acorns, and going past it and be like, oh, what are you, an idiot? Like, go back. And I literally went back and climbed up. I'm like, sorry, scrape. I walked all in it, and I climbed up and ended up, seeing, a fight, of all fight, Texas style fight. Ended up shooting a buck. It was great. So I was like, all right, cameras, they serve a purpose, but I do better, on the hoof, so to speak, on the fly.
I hear you. Yeah, that makes sense. Chase and I talk a lot about how we utilize trail cameras here, but I think it's incredibly valuable not to live and die by them.
Yeah, especially it's a double-edged sword. If the acorn crop, the areas I was hunting, I mean, it was extreme. Food was everywhere. So the bedding, not a lot of pressure because it's a 1,000-acre piece. There's 10 people hunting it, but there's food everywhere, acorn-wise and bait pile-wise. So the deer were just, the human pressure wasn't there, forcing them into like those beds they might be in, come October. Usually, if you got any a section of woods that's, a couple acres with acorns, that gets pressured by people, and deer, and the deer will get into, the little pressured bedding. But this year was the exact opposite. Food, there were great browse. It was should have some really good deer next year because there's a lot of good food. Hopefully.
Yeah. Okay, so going back to what you said though, if you already know the deer are there, are you using trail cameras to just identify mature deer or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking for, that one of them bucks that make you go, all right. And that's new for me as well because I mean, every deer that I've killed, I don't think I have a picture of them on a trail camera. So it's like, I'll get them and I'll hunt them and I'll see them, but I never really kill them. So most of my deer are deer I've never seen before. And they're there just, I mean, a trail camera, unless you're like Jerseyville, the bait piles. So deer, that it can be tricky, just set up on a trail because that deer might, come on that trail twice a week, once a week or whatever, throughout the season. So unless you're like over a scrape, or something like that, or like a rub line, or like right outside of a known bedding area, I don't get a lot of buck pictures. I was just looking for like that mega giant, like one of them ones that makes you want to get out of bed a little bit earlier. It's like, yeah, he's big enough. And this year, I didn't get any good camera pictures until middle of November. Like they were just. I think this food was just so good, and the two areas I pretty much focus on, just food everywhere. So the deer were just almost like mountain deer. They're just roaming free. Like no rhyme or reason. They're just going walkabout. So it's kind of hard to narrow one down. So next year I won't make that mistake. That's for sure.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to know in your gut that there's a big one there, but then when you can lay there at night and you're thinking about where you're going, oh, maybe I won't go in the morning, maybe I'll go in the afternoon. You can scroll through those photos and be like, no,
Yeah,
I'm going after that dude.
Yeah, and the one spot I found two good sheds last year. That place was a ghost town this year. Nothing. Cameras, 8 or 9 cameras, and I have one decent deer, like maybe 120. But that place, either they had a great shotgun year the year before and mowed a lot of them deer down, or food pressure. Like, I don't know. I didn't get a lot of people in cameras. I didn't see a lot of bird hunters or anything. It was just an off year. So I spent some time down there, which was not a good idea because, known buck areas were just rubs weren't there, scrapes were there. So I wasted some times, wasted a few sits sitting there when hindsight I knew better. But you always go that Hail Mary, like, yeah, this is the day. This is going to happen. Never happened.
How big are these tracks that you're hunting, Greg?
I've really gotten away from the smaller ones. Like, if it's not, 800 to, 5,000, like the one piece is like 4,000 or 5,000 acres total. And my notion, my thought behind that is if that buck is living there, say in the middle of that, odds are he's spending 75, 8% of his time there on that piece. If you got a little 100-acre piece, he's not living on a 100-acre piece. You're dealing with bird hunter, rabbit hunter. So I've really gravitated towards the bigger marshes, the big woods sections. Because if you're seeing them or getting pictures of them, or signs in the deep middle of that, odds are he's spending a good amount of time on public, and you actually got a chance to kill him like more than a few days, out of the season. Like, oh, hot dough, a buck goes in there, it's a little 100-acre piece, and then he's gone. Once fucking November 1st hits. So I'm trying to expand my options of getting numerous encounters of a deer or a bigger deer. Hasn't paid off yet, but
Yeah, I was just curious.
There's so much pressure from people, and we got a long season, and if you got a small piece, our season starts second week of September all the way to the end of January. Like, this deer are just hammered, like, for a long time, and they're smart and they're crafty. And if you can't get on some early season in a small acres piece, odds are he's going to come back through there during a rut once or twice. But it's not consistent enough for me to say, hey, I want to sit here like all season long waiting for that one deer, because, well, that's not very cost effective use of my time.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, do you leave cameras on them small pieces still?
Yeah, I still do. Like, there's a few pieces that the state will plant beans, and the first week you probably have an opportunity at a deer, first 10 days, and then usually it's gone. Not necessarily pressure based, but acorns start dropping across the street on the private, and deer are out of that bean field like later. They're going into beans at dark, and then they'll show up, 25th of October, cruising around looking for does, and then by like middle of October they're gone. Like, middle of November, you don't see them ever again. So the small pieces they can pay off, but everything has to line up perfectly. Like, all the ducks got to be in a row. Like, boom, 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 boom. If one thing's not in line, it's not happening. I think a lot of people that hunt small woodlots probably can attest to that too. Like, in the Midwest, like, there's certain time frames when bucks just roll through, and if you're not in the woods those 3 days that he's through there, like, then he's like lost for the season basically.
How do you balance that? Because my first thought is, like, if you have all these small pieces and you're running trail cameras, how are you, like, are you just kind of like throwing darts at the map basically on where you've had activity in the past, or?
Yeah, like, I'll scout them, and like the small pieces are neat because they're quick to scout. 4 hours, you pretty much scouted the whole thing, and you look at the rubs, like, all right, rubs still there, scrapes still there, and you pop in, around middle of August, and usually you can kick a buck up, or put a camera, or you can check something in the bean field. But yeah, pretty much it's historical data, and I don't really do on the small pieces. I mean, I've done it a few times where I've had some success, like randomly driving down the road, see a hunting sign. Fuck it, I'm gonna hunt here, and you see a deer. Oh man, this is great, and you never see a buck after that. I've had that a few times where it's like you hit it just right. You're like, oh man, this place is gonna be on fire. Nope, it's not on fire. It's the exact opposite. It's ice cold. I was just there when that buck had to come through that day.
That's funny, man. So it's basically educated guessing, but you're not investing too much time in one area. Like if you
Yeah,
how many times before you quit hunting it?
like now,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm old and smart, kind of. I'll give it like two or three sits, and I'm
Gotcha.
out. You know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I'd hunt the shot. Like I would just keep at it because I'm like, he's gonna come here sooner or later. Yeah, and they never do. So it's like, and when it's not too bad when I was single and I have like time to waste, but like now being a dad, a husband, like the time is like I literally have to be selective when I'm in the woods. And as most some of your listeners know, like I'm not a very good rut hunter, and it's funny now that I'm a dad and a husband, like I've becoming a better rut hunter because my odds are increased certain times of the year, and usually that's late October, November. So it's like I've kind of transitioned from a early season killer to a November killer because my odds are increased. Because I'm not sitting in the woods every day after work. Like I'm losing that time in the woods to all right. I got these 3 days to hunt. Okay, because even if I take a week off of work, I'm not hunting sundown. Like that's I can't. Unless I'm like go like locally. Like all right, I'll hunt in the morning here. All right, Wednesday I'll hunt in the evening. So even if I take a week off, I'm not hunting full days. Half a day here, a couple hours there. So rut hunting when you're married with kids, that's seems to be where it's at.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I find that I am 100% a rut hunter, but that's just because I'm a noob, and so like I hedge my bets for
Yeah,
when I think they might be moving. But
exactly. And some areas too, like if you don't have the time to invest in, like October hunting's great if you can be in the woods every couple of days because the food's changing, the pressure's changing. Like when I was having my success in the late September, early October, 10, 15 years ago, I was learning in the woods like every 2 days. So you can, as you're hunting, the hot sign, like, all right, you got almost time to scout, like break it down in sections. All right, I'm gonna push in a little bit, hunt this spot. All right, nothing's moving on. I'm gonna go hunt this spot, and you can narrow it down pretty well. Like you see, the hunting public, those guys, they do a pretty good job with that. Go to a new piece, they got 7 days to hunt, and they break it down in little quadrants. Hunt here, and then usually they have success towards the end of the hunt because they're scouting and hunting all these eyes, and they can do things. But the weekend warriors, that's very hard for us to do. People that only got Saturday, or in some states don't even allow Sunday hunting. So if you got Saturday, like that's difficult, man.
yep, and that's pretty much me. Chase and I have stark differences. I'm the weekend warrior right now. Chase hunts probably what 3-4 times a week.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, this past year I didn't, but in the past,
Yeah,
yeah, I've been able to swing that, especially when I know the time's right. But even early season, if I have a specific deer or something I'm going after, then yeah, I can kind of be on his heels, so to speak, a lot more as opposed to just hunting on a Saturday and then really no intel again until the next Saturday, and then the deer's gone.
Yeah, that's I mean that's a lot of hunters, a lot of problems hunters face, and that's in New Jersey. Like we can hunt Sundays, and that's probably only been in about 10 years or so, maybe a decade. We've been allowed to do that, and it's been a game changer, for me because it gives you that extra time in the woods. Because for a long time I worked two jobs, so I didn't really have a lot of time, after here or weekends. So it was nice. It was allowing you another day of actually hunting and not scouting, because I couldn't tell you how many bucks I've seen on Sundays before we allowed to hunt when you're walking through the woods scouting. And you're like 30 bucks in, and you're like, awesome, thanks, what's up? I'll never see you again.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So did the deer educate you to any new patterns? Did you find any new areas that they're using that kind of stumped you, or maybe you weren't expecting them to?
This year, the one, it's a big salt marsh section, and they had this primary scrape. I was hit for 15 years. Big rub, big scrapes. Well, they had a windstorm that went through, one of our summer windstorms, and it pretty much decimated this area. The scrape was still there, but now there's all this cover around the scrape. The scrape was a big open spot. And I ran cameras for about 3 years, and I got a lot of day walkers. And this year, I was like, I'm going to hunt it. I'm going to shoot one of these whoppers. Because last year I had, probably 140, 150 inch, like 9 and 10 pointers coming in, like beautiful, big deer. And this year, blowdowns pretty much destroyed that, because I don't know if they felt they felt like they were in danger, being real tight in that cover. Like, I don't know. Usually, but it's so far away from human presence, like they don't need to walk in cover, because it's out there. Like it's a mile, as per Onyx. It's 1.17 miles, and that's usually you're going here, making a left, going like these islands. They get to pain in the ass to get to, but those deer abandoned that. I ran 2 cameras on that big island, nothing. And I was scouting. I went to check the camera and hunt a few times, like nothing. So I pulled the camera right before gun season, and then did like a loop. And they were literally on the next island over. It's a significantly smaller, but it's wide open. Scrapes everywhere, rubs everywhere, and they literally just shifted over into an open spot. And I'm like, it's so weird. Like, I was like, I couldn't believe it that they literally completely abandoned something they used for 15 years, and just went over because of all these blowdowns. Like, I don't know I still don't know why. Like, I have no idea why.
When did the blowdowns occur?
Man, June, probably like May, June, July. We had some wicked storms through here, and big pines. I mean, like big mature pines. Like the 80-footers.
Right.
And just big oak trees fell down, and it's just crazy. Maybe it's food. Maybe like the oak trees weren't there. I don't really know.
I wonder if all that sunlight hitting the forest floor created a bunch of new browse, and so it shifted the use.
Yeah, I'll probably never know why.
Yeah.
It's like they literally just shifted over, and it's like, and everything that was on the big island just transferred over to the small island. Big rubs, big tall rubs, big scrapes everywhere, like big chunks of reeds everywhere, and you're like, huh. So I sat there. I think I hunted it 3 times, and I seen a doe. That was it. There was a few, like, on camera, they get some random does going there, but all the bucks were like, later. I just, it might be like, it could be a visual thing. Like, maybe they always bedded close to that scrape. They bedded on it, and they could see it through it, like a visual smelling thing. I don't really know, because not unless the doe shifted over there, that the bucks would go over that way, or maybe that some of the deer got killed, or who knows. I'll probably never know. But I know where I'll be next year.
Yeah, I was about to say, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. That's fascinating.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things that was like a head scratch for me this year. Like, I just don't understand. And usually, like, you get a good indication of why deer are making changes, pressure people, like, but it's like nothing. Some blowdowns, and they're like, peace out. And you're like, you think more cover would be great. More bucks coming through there, I feel safer. But I think they're so far removed from human pressure that maybe they don't want to walk through that thick stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe it's turning in the aisle or something. I don't know.
It's funny because I hunted a lot of area that was hurricane damaged 3 years ago. Like that Hurricane Michael came through and just literally killed every tree, and the deer use it in a way that I just don't expect them to. I mean, they just, you have blowdowns and everything, so there's like a fair amount of good cover, but it's not thick like I would expect it to be. And those deer were moving through there broad daylight, just browsing, moving through, bedding up against a blowdown, browsing through and bedding again. It was really remarkable. I'll be interested to touch base with you in the coming years and see if they don't like shift back again to those islands, because that would be interesting to see.
Yeah. Like I said, I'll put a camera back on that scrape next year, and see what happens.
For
I
sure.
should get one of those cell cameras to save me a trip walking back there. So that's a bear walking back there. Like it's one of those things. Like it's just like the trails. It's an old. I guess it'd be some type of four-wheel trailer before it became public, maybe, or like an old cart road.
Uh-huh.
But it's like it goes in spots and stops, and then like starts, and like big like erosion comes through. It's just briars. Like you're like crawling on your hands and knees, and the tide's up, like you're crawling in, like 3 inches of water. Like it's one of those spots. Like I know why people don't go back there because it sucks. It's just straight sucks. It's like you're losing so much blood from all the sticker bushes. You're getting chiggers, sticker bushes. Like it's awful. Early season, I hate it. I mean, I absolutely hate it. But it's one of those things. Like, all right, the deer back there. I got to get back there. There's no people, and there's a lot of day walker activity. And of course, the year I hunt, it's just nothing. Go figure. I think maybe I just missed the boat. All them deer were killed.
Yeah.
Died of old age.
He took the words out of my mouth. That's right where I was going.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I mean, you had a good year last year, dude.
Yeah, it was. I killed early season. I shot a doe that was first hit of the year for me because I went to Montana, and so I didn't hunt the first 3 weeks of the season. First morning out, it was kind of rainy. This doe came in, and she was limping, fell over a log, and I shot her. She ran like 10 yards. I went up to her, and somebody shot her an expandable high in the shoulder, broke her shoulder, was like infected. So that was pretty cool. And then I shot that buck, and then I was in PA and I lost a big deer, which kind of hurt. And then I got lucky enough to make the second opportunity on a buck count a few days later. And that deer was a tank, and had a few good encounters in November here, a split main beam buck, but it came out so fast. He wouldn't score well, but he had double main beams on the one side. I'm like, I'm shooting that deer. Like I see him like, I grabbed the bow and he's going, and I'm like, where'd he go? Wait, where'd he go? And he's going like instantaneous. I'm like, all right, yep, that's how it's gonna go. Fantastic. And that's and then had some warm weather. Like we had some cold weather, and I had a week off in the middle of November, and it was just hot, and deer were just not much going on. It was pretty crappy. As far as buck movement, the cameras were good. I was just always in the wrong spot when they were day walking. I pulled the camera, so I'm like, hey, I was hunting 100 yards. I was hunting 100 yards from that spot. Awesome. Look, 3 bucks come through. Woo, great. I'll just scratch it off as a wrong spot, wrong time.
Yeah, proof of concept, but
Yeah.
wrong application.
Yeah, and one thing I did this year too, I started like data logging all my cameras for like the month of November, and we had like a 3-day stint here in Jersey. I'm gonna try and hunt. Always have those 3 days off. It's the 18th, 19th, and 20th. All day walker on like 4 different properties. I had cameras, and I had day walking, like good bucks day walking. And that was pretty much the most activity I had on the day wise. So I'm like, And usually I'm out of days by then. I'm usually working. So it's like this year I changed my vacation schedule to give me that week of vacation so I can take a couple days during that week. Because there were some really like big deer, like mature deer. So maybe they're just new to the area, and they're making mistakes. Like, I don't know. I'm just like I said, I'm new to the whole rut game, especially like late November. Usually I'm like not in the woods 'cause I'm working. So this year I learned a little bit from the cameras.
Yeah.
I apply it next year.
I am like going full bore into cameras. Like especially as a weekend warrior, especially as a dude that doesn't get to hunt very often. It helps me stay on top of the animals and start establishing those patterns. Yes, I may miss them this year, but I've found that areas that have a deer moving in early October always seem to have deer moving in early October, and so I bounce those cameras around, get that intel, and it helps me make the most of the weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, if you use cameras for that situation, because a lot spots I've ran cameras for years before I actually hunt. Like putting a camera out and you get a picture of a buck like the first couple of days. For me, it's always been like a luck. It was just the right place, right time camera put, and then you never see them. It was like one picture. Like if I'm not getting numerous pictures of bucks or the same bucks or like mature bucks, like day walking or like really close to day walking that gray light, especially when I'm be hunting nearby, like I don't even bother wasting my time. 2 a.m. pictures in a spot that I like over a scrape or like out of a bedding area, I'm not even gonna waste my time. And that's where cameras come into play. Like you can just eliminate it. Like, all right, historically speaking, this spot's awful. It's all nighttime movers. Like, and I've been guilty. I've been found guilty, I guess, of trying to make. I think every hunter has trying to make a spot better than what it really is. You get a picture of a buck or you see a buck and this is it. This is going to be, and you hunt it like 5 times. You see like a squirrel, and it's like, this is not it.
Yeah.
Not it.
Was wrong. Abort.
Yeah.
Oh man, Chase, do you have any follow-up questions to any of that, or questions of your own?
Not. I mean, did you learn? Did you have any lessons like equipment wise or anything this year, Greg, that you can share?
I changed I bought a new bow, a carbon bow, and I bought it for elk hunting, basically for carrying, and I did all my shooting with my quiver on, like a tight spot quiver. It's pretty well balanced. But on the saddle, or tree stand, I don't shoot with a quiver on. So for me, I need to either get another bow for a whitetail, or practice with this bow without the quiver on, because it's definitely a little lighter when it's not way down, a little too light for me. And I know on that doe I shot, like it was not my best shot, because the bow was so light. I'm like, man, and I never really shot without the quiver off. So it was like, whoa, sit still, pin. It was too light, so that's it's easy to say it's not going to bother me. I've been shooting a long time. I'm a good shot, but that's one thing I fault myself on, is not shooting enough from the whitetail standpoint. And I didn't really change out much besides that. I love the bow; it's great. I just need to. If I'm going to shoot this bow next year for whitetails, I need to balance it out, weigh it down a little bit more. Put a different quiver on it, and maybe put some more stabilizer weights on it to give me the right weight I need.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that the first time I bought a carbon bow. I'd pull it back, and I'm like, man, I can't get this pin to settle. It's too late.
Yeah, exactly. It's for elk hunting. It was great. The bows. I mean, I was shooting great with it, and out to Montana, like up and down the mountains. It was awesome. It was cold. We got wicked cold weather. I'm like, man, my hand. I got finger gloves on. I don't need to put a giant mitten on anymore, because it just don't get cold. I'm like, this is it. Like I love carbon for that, but it is a smidgen light. So it's like, all right, next year I'll make some changes to that. Yeah, that doe, and I won't say I got lucky, but yeah, that could have went south real fast. That shot, she was already injured to begin with, and not practicing without the quiver on could have been, not the outcome I wanted. So
Sure.
I won't make that mistake, and I shouldn't have made that mistake in the first place, but I did. And, it's kind of lame, I guess.
Right on, man.
What about you guys? You guys make changes?
I'm desperately trying not to make changes to any gear. I'm trying to be happy with what I've got because it works.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I bought a bow, but I like I said, same thing. It was just kind of tweaking it to get it to where you feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, I'm trying to eliminate unnecessary stuff too, like in my gear, like my bags, like really downsizing what I bring in the woods. And my bag, I got the Badlands Super Day, and I can literally fit everything I need in that pack, which is nice. Crawling through brush, and I got nothing hanging out. Everything's inside the pack. It's nice and I don't just get hung up on brush. everybody's hunting up with a tree stand on the back, and every vine's catching that little corner when you're walking in the dark, ripping you back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty nice.
One thing I'm going to utilize, I think, more this year. I guess I was lying when I said I'm trying not to change anything because I am. I guess I was thinking like bow and stuff, arrow setup, and I'm not tweaking any of that. But I am going to try and utilize the kayak more because there are some areas that they aren't necessarily like hard to get to, but it's like getting to them without blowing out what's there seems to be kind of an issue. And so I'm going to try and approach some of those areas from the water and kind of like, I don't want to say I'm bed hunting because there's no beds there, but I'm bedding area hunting where, I'm
Yeah.
trying to catch those deer coming through as they, are coming back home.
Yeah, water access is always good. I've shot a lot of deer with the water access, and you can't go wrong with it, especially if you hunt. I mean, a lot of my spots with canoe, I literally just pull my canoe up and I'm hunting right at my canoe. So you're not crossing any deer trails. You're not doing anything. You're sneaking in, sneaking out. It's great for areas you can hunt a couple days in a row because you're not crossing any deer trails. So it's pretty great. It's not so great when it's cold and you're doing all that work and you're not seeing any deer. And it's not so great.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, man, I appreciate you taking time out your morning. I'm not going to hold you up from your dad life, but tell everybody where they can find you.
Instagram, bow hunting scene. That's some YouTube bow hunting scene. I don't get a few videos in there recently. Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm gonna send a couple
Facebook.
of our listeners your way. They hunt the salt marsh down in Florida, and it just dawned on me that there's probably some correlation. So maybe I can blow up your Instagram with a couple of our regular followers.
I always wanted to kill deer in Florida. My old archery coach moved down there, and he don't hunt. Yeah, he don't hunt no more. And he's like, I see deer. I was like, that's one place I would travel. 18 hours to shoot a deer. Just because it's different, and they're smaller deer, and people say they're hard to hunt, So I was like, that's a challenge worth taking up.
That is the first time on the podcast anybody's ever said that.
Well, and I could probably convince my wife, hey, it's Florida. She'd probably want to
there you go.
any time of the year. Take the kids down there, pull the camper down, like, hey, look, I'm going to go hunting for a couple of days. I'll be at the beach. Win-win.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's right. Oh, well, maybe we can make that happen.
Oh, yeah, man.
Hang on one second. I'm going to wrap this out. Guys, thank you again. I do believe this is going to be the last of our Lessons of the Fall series, but it's been real popular. So next year, I think we're gonna maybe expand it a little bit, make it a little more in-depth series, but it's been fun reaching out to people and figuring out what they've learned. So do me a favor. No matter what you do, get outside and enjoy the great outdoors.